up, people? How are you doing? I hope you're having a damn good day. Instead, we'll be talking about Manchester City's 4-2-3-1 formation. It is a somewhat new formation, you could say, but I think it's more or less what Pep used to use, like a few seasons ago when there was Fernandinho in the team and everything like that. And he's more or less reverted back to that with slight alterations to it. So, we are going to go through those tactics. We are going to go through the formation, the instructions for the different players. Like I say, there's slight variations to it. Of course, you've got the likes of Erling Haaland and no longer Jesus. So it is going to be a very interesting video. So if you can, hit the like button, please. That would be absolutely fantastic. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. That would be even better. But more importantly, guys, we're going to hop on into this one. So starting up front, we've got Erling Haaland, we've got Foden in behind him, we've got Silva and Grealish on either side of Foden, we've got Kovacic and Rodri as our double pivots, Walker, Stones, Diaz and Ake as the back four, and then we've got Edison in goal. On the substitutes bench, we've got Alvarez, Duku, Nunez, Phillips, Ortega, Akanji, Vardiel, and then in the reserves, we've got a smaller reserve side than normal, but we've got Lewis, Gomez, De Bruyne, who's injured of course, Zach Steffen, or is it? I'm pretty sure it's Zach Steffen. We've got Carson and then a few other players as well. So it's a very thin team, to be fair, but it's got loads of talent in it. So it is what it is. So as you can see for the formation, I've gone with a 4-2-3-1 narrow. That does make sense. You want to try and make it a very narrow, compact team for those little interchanging passes around the midfield area. But I have made a few changes. As you can see, we're only playing with one DM, one central midfielder. So Kovacic's position is slightly changed, slightly altered. And then the two wider attacking midfielders I've made left and right wingers. So essentially it looks like, well, it starts off with one goalkeeper, two centre backs, two full backs. So a right and a left back, not wing backs or anything like that. We've got one DM, one central midfielder, one attacking midfielder, two wingers, and then of course one striker. So with the tactics and everything like that, it does follow the very similar style and structure to what a Pep Guardiola team does look to implement throughout with all the formations and all that stuff going forward. So basically you will still look to try and press after loss of possession. You will still look to try and retain the ball as much as possible, be very slow with the build up, making sure that you're probing at the offense, the opposition, with your offense, and you are trying to take advantage of the key situations that do tend to show themselves for your team going forward. So you will look to press the width is set to 40, somewhat a zonal type area where you will have players picking up runners in certain phases of the field opposed to just having a man-to-man type system. The depth, of course, is a very high line set to 85. You're trying to compact and press and squeeze the opposition in their own half, forcing them to make errors, forcing them to make mistakes, forcing them to sometimes go long into your backline to help them win the ball back, circulates back into possession, and then you go again and again and again. It's just relentless attacking pressure that this team looks to impose on the opposition. As for the offensive play and the build-up and the chance creation, such as slow build-up and possession, like I say, you want to have a bit more a sense of calm on the ball. You want to try and use the ball as effectively as possible, and you do that by having the slow build-up, the possession approach as well. And it works out quite well for the City team. Although they can have that fast-paced build-up, you do have runners like Erling Haaland, Jack Grealish, of course, Bernardo Silva that can make those runs in behind. But mainly Erling Haaland trying to stretch the opposition's defense vertically in every sense of the term. Like, he does such a good job at just playing off of the shoulder and making sure he exploits that space in behind. As for the width, it's set to 60. Like I say, it's a very compact and narrow system with your wing backs or your full backs at times creating space. In this case, it is going to be Kyle Walker creating space down that right-hand side and Jack Grealish on the left-hand side. So there are some traits and attributes that you will see that I have used from other systems, and I think that Pep has used from other systems to try and get this system to work. And I think it's a very effective way of progressing your team going forward. As for players in the box, it is set to a very high number as an 8. Of course, you have the likes of Erling Haaland. You need players around him in order to pull space and pull defenders away from him in order to make it very effective for your superstar striker to score goals. And as for corners and free kicks, as per always, it is set to 4. So as for your goalkeeper, of course, it's Edison, one of the best sweeper keepers in the world. He is set to come for crosses and be a sweeper keeper. It goes without saying, a very high line. You need that keeper to be off of his line more times than not, collecting the ball, circulating it back into possession. And it works out very, very well for this Man City team. As for Diaz and Stones, they are set to their base set of instructions, and then we'll move out slightly wider to the fullback department. As for Walker, he's set to join the attack and overlap, so like I said earlier, he will look to try and provide the width down the right-hand side, often creating space for Bernardo Silva to come inside a bit more, interact with the midfield a fair amount, and get the best out of him and his traits and abilities. and he is also set to stick to position. Now, slightly different role for the left-handed side, Nathan Ake. He is set to have a balanced attack. Normal interceptions will be on, have a mixed attack as well for his run type, and then step up. So he will be a bit more aggressive with his tackling, but he will not always look to get forward. He will look to sometimes stay back. And one thing I did note, there is somewhat remnants of that back three system with Ake just tucking in certain moments, but he does have that freedom to get forward if the attack on the left-hand side, or if the ball is on the left-hand side and he is attacking down that left flank. So he can provide some width in certain moments, but more times than not, I do like the idea that he can tuck in when Kyle Walker looks to bomb on more times than not. And then moving up into the midfield, we'll start off with Kovacic. He's set to get forward, but stay on the edge of the box, so he won't always look to run past the likes of Erling Haaland. He'll look to try and more or less support the likes of Phil Foden as a more advanced number 8 in certain moments. He does play slightly higher up compared to Rodri, and we will get to those instructions shortly. But I think he complements this midfield very, very well. And it is, what a deal this is, 25 million for Manchester City. Like, one of Chelsea's best players over like the time that he's been there, and letting him go for such a little amount is quite shocking, to be fair. But anyway, back to the instructions. He's said to have normal interceptions on, stick to position, and then, of course, cover the wing. So it is a very basic type number 8 role. He will get forward, but he won't look to run past the striker. He'll look to hang around the box, have a slightly deeper role to Foden, but have a more advanced role when compared to his counterpart in Rodri. And speaking of Rodri, he's said to cut passing hands, dropping between the defenders, collecting the ball, turning, dropping his shoulder, driving it into the midfield, or spraying off passes. And then, of course, he's set to cover the centre, so he will look to shield the backline in certain moments, creating a back three. So when Ake tends to drive on forward and Walker's out of position, that back three of Diaz, Stones, and Rodri will be very prominent, and it does look very, very nice in the game as well. And more times than not, Pep always wants to have at least 3 defenders back to prevent counterattacks and to potentially shield the goal. So whether it's Rodri or whether it's Ake, it does tend to always shape up quite well for this team and this formation. Moving on forward though, we've got Philip Foden. He's set to come back on defence, stay on the edge of the box for crosses, free roam, and then normal interceptions. Now, I have gone with come back on defence because more times than not, if your two pivot, or if your pivot is heavily marked by the opposition, you do want your number 10 to drop deep, and also sometimes even pull the opposition's defense out of position in certain moments, allowing for more space to be created for the likes of Haaland or Grealish or Silva, who will look to cut inside in certain moments. So it does work out quite well. It's a nice tandem of a give and go type system, and you also want him slightly more involved in the offensive build-up play. And then, of course, for free roam, it does allow him to work in the little half spaces, creating overloads in certain areas for the team, and also trying to distract and more or less overwork the opposition's defense as well. Stay on the edge of the box. It goes without saying you want more or less Haaland as the focal point, but you also want your number 10 to be able to whip those balls in. So if it's Kevin De Bruyne, you want him whipping balls in from the right, potential crosses, but at the same time you want him to have a bit of a presence in and around the area to either recycle the ball or circulate play, or potentially take shots from outside the box. And then, of course, normal interceptions will be on. Now, as for your wingers, we'll start off with Jack Grealish. He's set to come back on defence. Both wingers are going to be able to come back a bit more, and that does help them with the build-up play when building up from the goalkeeper. There is extra bodies in the midfield to then pass to and create those little triangle phases of play, so it does work out quite well. But more importantly, Jack Grealish is set to stay wide, so when you do have him on the ball, you will look to drive inside manually with him, very much a Jack Grealish type trait that he's developed at Manchester City. His support runs are set to balance, so he won't always look to bomb on in behind or come inside. He will look to have a bit of a balanced approach, which does help a fair amount. And then we've got him set to get into the box for crosses, so he will make those angled runs into the attacking area. And then as for Silva, a slightly different role. He's set to come back on defence. This time though, he's set to have a balance width, so he will look to sometimes stay wide depending on if Walker's bombing on further forward or not. But more times than not, he will look to come inside a bit more because he is set to come short. Like I say, he will be more involved in the build-up play in the midfield, helping the likes of Foden, helping the likes of Kovacic with the attacking phases of play. And then, as well as Jack Grealish, he is set to get into the box for the crosses, making those angled runs to try and support the likes of Haaland and get onto those loose balls in the box. And then finally, we have got Erling Haaland, who is set to have a balanced width, so he will look to make angled runs in and out of the box. Very good at doing so, but more importantly, he will look to try and take up that central area because, of course, you do have a supporting cast behind him, and he has got the full length and range of the attacking area to exploit and he does a very, very good job with that. But more importantly, he is set to get in behind. Like I say, very quick, very versatile, can play on the shoulder of the opposition, tries to exploit the space in behind the opposition's back line, and he does a very, very good job with that. And then aggressive interceptions is on. He looks to try and lead the press. He looks to try and close down the opposition's centre backs or the goalkeeper at times. And that's why I've gone with aggressive interceptions set to on. And then stay forward is also set to be on. He's going to be very much involved in the attacking outlet, but he won't be very much involved in the essential build-up play to the final third. He is the guy who ends it off. He's not the guy who essentially starts. And that's more or less why you have Phil Foden in this number 10 role, or Kevin De Bruyne in this number 10 role. They're going to be almost as a secondary striker in certain moments when it comes to the build-up play, getting to that final third. So yes, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you have, hit the like button, please. One more time, just in case you forgot. But if you are enjoying my videos, you are enjoying my content, there will be more out fairly soon. But more importantly, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Mad love, mad appreciation. I hope you guys have a damn great day. I'm out.